and we'll let people in as they arrive. Good evening, everyone. My name's Lisa Dooley from Development Victoria. Thank you for attending our exciting seminar, Building Opportunities for Women in Construction. First, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we're all dialing in from, and I pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. This evening, you'll have the chance to hear from 6 women who are currently working in the construction industry at the State Netball and Hockey Centre redevelopment in a variety of different roles. You will also have a chance to ask any questions that you always wanted to ask about how you can find your own pathway into a career in construction. A couple of housekeeping matters before we start. Please keep your microphone muted to keep out any unwanted noise and to make sure the speakers can be heard. And please keep your video off. If you have questions throughout the presentations, please use the chat function. If you hover over the screen on Teams, a little bar will pop up and one of the selections is chat, and you can use that. We will then make sure these get directed to the panel. To help give you an understanding of the project that the panellists are working on, I'll show you a quick video of the works on the northern entrance at the State Netball and Hockey Centre. Then it will be handed over to Ainsley to introduce the panel and get started. Thanks, Ainsley.
Thank you, Lisa. Welcome to all of our panellists tonight, and of course you, our audience. Wherever you may be watching from, thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. Today we've assembled a panel of 6 women who work in conjunction with Kane on the State Netball and Hockey Centre, all of which come from very different backgrounds, and while some are everyday workers on site in boots and vests, others are working on our design teams, with our clients and in our planning divisions. Everybody on this panel tonight has a great role to play in bringing this project to life. We'll introduce each of our panellists tonight with a brief intro before they tell you their own unique story and pathway to their role at the State Netball and Hockey Centre. Tonight we'll start with Shana, who works for Kane as well as our design manager. Shana studied a double degree science and civil engineering at Melbourne University before joining Kane in 2018. Shana was appointed design manager at the State Netball and Hockey Centre and leads our team of consultants to work with our clients in Development Victoria to bring about the State Netball and Hockey Centre redevelopment. Welcome, Shana.
Thanks, Ainsley. So, hi, I'm Shana and I work for Kane Constructions. So we're the commercial builder that's delivering the State Netball and Hockey Centre redevelopment. So how did I end up working in construction? In high school, I studied maths and science, and I was trying to decide between medicine and engineering. I think most girls that love maths and science gravitate more towards medicine or science courses, and I can think of 2 standout reasons that was different for me. So my father was a civil engineer, so I immediately had that bit of exposure to what engineers do. But I think what really pushed it over the line for me was that my Year 12 specialist maths teacher. At the start of Year 12, there's a classroom of 12 girls in specialist maths. He asked the class, who wants to be an engineer? There were no hands up. But by the end of the year, 5 of the 12 were accepting offers to study engineering. Firstly, I think he got it on our radar for a lot of the class. I think he normalised it, and I think he provided really good practical examples of how the content we were learning could actually be applied in real life. So he was subtle, but he was persistent across the year. So I can't underestimate the importance of role models in my journey. So from that, I went on to study a double degree of civil engineering and science at the University of Melbourne. Most people wouldn't realise it, but a course like that leads to so many different career paths. From this one course, I could go on to study a lot of different things, and that was a really big draw card for me. And during uni, I was really keen to get work experience so I could understand what the industry was like and where I might want to end up. And I'd strongly recommend work experience to anyone out there. The more common path for people that study engineering is to go on to be a design engineer. So basically the people that crunch the numbers. But because of my work experience, I knew I wanted to go on to work in construction. When I finished uni, I started a graduate program as a site engineer. So what do site engineers do? Basically, we take the drawings from the design engineers and the architects and we make them a reality. Essentially, you have to make sure the right people and the right materials are there at the right time. You're responsible for resolving issues as they arise, and you also undertake quality checks of the installation along the way. Basically, the architect's documents are like a recipe. You just need to read it and make sure everyone's following the same recipe. Look, it's a really dynamic and rewarding environment to work in. It's really fast-paced and it's interesting, and every day is different. As a site engineer, I worked on projects such as high-rise office towers, and yes, I have sat in a tower crane. I worked on projects at Melbourne Airport, and I've even built a prison. So every project is different and you're always learning new things. I now work as a design manager, and instead of building designs other people give me, I get to make the designs. So while my current role is a little bit more removed from that site-based work that I loved, I can have a bigger impact on what the overall project will look like and how it will function. So I really love that, and it's really fun and rewarding for different reasons. Major construction projects are a real team effort, and they're very technically complex. There is a specialist for everything. Each project will have a structural engineer, a mechanical engineer, an acoustic engineer, an environmental engineer, an architect. The list goes on. One of the main focuses in my role is to coordinate all these people and to manage the specialist consultants to make sure they're all on the same page and resolve any issues that arise. So the role is really diverse. 1 minute we're considering how to make the building more energy efficient, and the next minute we're talking about how do we get people safely out in a fire. I work with a great team of specialists, and it's a really collaborative environment to get to the end design. And Helen and Spencer are two people in that team that you're going to meet tonight as well. Another aspect of my current role is the clients and stakeholders, such as organisations as Netball Victoria and Hockey Victoria. Through the design process, I guide the clients and stakeholders and work closely with them to understand what they actually want. And then we make sure we deliver that in their final building. In my role, I'd actually say my communication skills and organisational skills are just as important, if not more so, than any technical knowledge. So these softer skills are still really important in the construction industry. And I think that's something more women in the industry could improve. So as a design manager, I've designed projects such as a helicopter maintenance and repair facility, Bendigo TAFE, and of course the State Netball and Hockey Centre. So I'm really excited to see everyone here tonight, and thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot, Shana. Our next panelist is Spencer. Sorry, Spencer. Spencer is a graduate from Newcastle University in 2017, where you graduated with a degree in architecture. You'll soon be undertaking your Masters of Architecture at Melbourne University, and in the meantime, you're an assistant architect at DWP, who are our lead architectural consultants at State Netball. Welcome, Spencer.
Hi guys, thanks for having me on today. Yeah, so as you know, I'm an architectural assistant at DWP. Just to give a bit of background into how you can become an architect, typically you need to graduate from your bachelor's and master's degree And then with a minimum of 2 years experience and a logbook, you can then apply to sit an exam and an interview. And then following successful completion of that, you can register to become an architect. So I'm kind of halfway through that process now. I've graduated from my bachelor's degree, where I had the great opportunity to kind of build a community with friends who are now working in the industry as well. And I was able to travel overseas on exchange and kind of also build connections overseas and kind of see buildings that I'd only studied about previously, which is really inspirational to kind of see them in the flesh and see what you can create down in the future. I think following my graduation, I've been working in the industry for about 3 years. I first got my first job at a certifying company, actually as an admin assistant, which was a really great opportunity for me to kind of get into the industry and get that exposure. And then following that, I started working at DWP, and I've been with DWP for about 2.5 years. It's been really great because I've had some really great female mentors as female architects and project leaders on jobs that I've worked on. I've also had great exposure to different sectors within the industry and different phases. So I've worked on projects in civic, seniors living, health and sports and recreation. And that's kind of how I came to work on state netball and hockey, which was really great because I kind of was fortunate enough to come on state netball and hockey really early in the stages and have seen it grow and become what it is. It's also been really great to see such a high participation of women in different roles across the sector, more so than I've seen on any other job. And I think that's really inspirational, especially early in my career, to have those role models and kind of see what the opportunities that are out there for women in construction. It's also been really great because I've got friends who use the facility, and to just hear their excitement, it's really a proud moment to know that you played a small part in that project. So I think that's really great. And I think that's what's really great about the construction industry in general, is that you're a part of this collaborative team working with people from different backgrounds, coming together to create these buildings that people can come and experience and appreciate throughout for years to come. And that's really great. I think for me, having leadership roles, women in leadership roles, is really important because it sets a benchmark and it gives us something to strive for and surpass. And I think that's really important. For me, sometimes it can be hard to see where you fit in the industry down this path, and to have people like that is really great, and it makes me want to take on those roles so I can be a leader for people in the generations coming up. So that's really great. And I think advice I would give to anyone wanting to come into the industry is just to do it and to kind of immerse yourself in it. There's so many great seminars like tonight and great things the universities put on and different organisations, and it's a great way to build those connections and that support and really see all the opportunities that are available. So yeah, that's going to be.
Thanks so much, Spencer. I couldn't agree more. It's exciting to see exactly what's going to happen at the end of our projects. If you've got mates that are there, even better. It makes it more real. Our next panellist is Pranjal. Pranjal works for our client in Development Victoria, and she's worked in civic projects for almost 3 years. She's our client-side project manager at the State Netball and Hockey Centre. Take it away, Pranjal.
Thanks, Ainsley. Hi, guys. So a little bit about me and my story. So I went to RMIT University and studied industrial engineering. So the skills I gained while studying this particular discipline of engineering actually opened up a really broad range of opportunities for me, which is pretty much exactly what I wanted when I was starting out in my career. So after I finished university, I landed a role at a tier 1 consulting firm. And I was really grateful for my time there, because I got exposed to a lot of different types of projects with various clients. And with that, I got the opportunity to immerse myself in a lot of different industries, from, of course, construction to shipping to metals and mining, and of course, government as well. I went through a real period of self-discovery at that point, because I started to realize what it was that I specifically enjoyed and what made me tick. I found myself quite drawn to the projects that were within the built environment and construction sector, and in particular those that were being delivered by our government clients, because I could see the positive social impact those projects were having, and that really motivated me. So I decided to step into the world of government and at the same time maintain a close link to the construction industry. I did that by actually joining a local council as a project engineer, where I managed a $10 million capital works portfolio. And this was a portion of the council's sort of overall building and infrastructure program. But at this point, I developed some fundamental project management skills, specifically needed for construction projects, because I was in charge of delivering a lot of different projects for the local community that literally ranged from picnic shelters and mini public toilet blocks to some pretty decent sized sporting pavilions. And I really enjoyed what I was doing there. But after a while, I decided I wanted to do something a bit more challenging. So I took it up a notch and joined state government, which is where I am today. And I'm now at Development Victoria working as a project manager to deliver and build some of the state's most iconic projects. And as you can tell, like, my career journey so far has been quite dynamic, and I've taken a pretty non-traditional path into the construction industry. And I'm really excited to see the industry grow and advance further by taking on more women. Thank you.
Thanks, Pranjal. I really appreciate the fact that you've come through from, as you say, a non-traditional path, because there's no one great linear pathway that'll see you get to a career in construction. So it's a great example of how you made it your own. Next, we have Helen. Helen works for Architecture and Access, who are our specialist consultants advising on DDA compliance. Helen trained as an occupational therapist and worked in health before transitioning into consultancy and ultimately into construction. Helen's role makes sure the State Netball and Hockey Centre will be a great place for all abilities. Helen?
Thanks. Yes, my colleague Rosie has been the main person working on the State Netball and Hockey Centre. Unfortunately, she's unwell today. My involvement has been a little bit more minor. I've been involved with the Changing Places facility at the centre. I also had a connection with the hockey centre. I've spent many, many cold Friday nights and Saturday nights watching my son play hockey there. Yes, I trained as an occupational therapist, so I've come to construction in a very different way. Through my training as an OT, I learnt three things about a person and what affects their performance. Firstly, it's the skills of a person. Somebody might have an accident and that changes what they can do. And as an occupational therapist, you work with that person through rehabilitation to try and improve and restore their skills and abilities. The second thing is the activity. What are you actually doing? You know, a person with a hearing impairment playing chess is a very different activity to, listening to this panel tonight. And then the final part of how well a person can function is the environment. If you only have steps up into a building, you severely limit somebody who uses a wheeled mobility device. If you put a ramp in there, everybody can get in there. When I first finished my course, I worked in early intervention and then community health. I then went and lived overseas with my husband, was transferred overseas, and I didn't work for 12 years. So I'd lost a bit of confidence in working as an occupational therapist. And I started thinking, well, what am I going to do now? And it was actually through renovating our own house that I just loved the process of building. I loved it. And it's a bit unusual, but anyway. And I saw a job advertised with Scope, and they're a disability support organisation, the Building Advisory Service. And I had the opportunity there to work alongside another occupational therapist. I was mentored. I learnt all about people with high support needs and the needs of the carers who work with them. And that is where Changing Places started, where I've understood how a person's ability, disability, the environment that they're in just affects what somebody can do. I had lots to learn. But I also reached a point that I knew what I knew, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And that in some ways can be a dangerous place to be. And I approached Chris Porter from Architecture and Access, and I started working with him. And I had a wonderful opportunity to learn as I work. And Chris is still my boss 12 years later. So at Architecture and Access, we work with architects, construction companies, building surveyors to ensure that the built environment allows people to be the best that they can be able to participate in the activities that they want to, whether it's playing netball or watching hockey. What I love about my job, I love the huge variety. I go places that I would never go otherwise. You know, I've been inside prisons, operating prisons. I've been on defence bases. I've done rainforest walks, and I've seen lots and lots and lots of toilets. I love surprising people because people don't always expect you to be working in construction. And I arrived home from site one day and one of my daughter's friends thought I was playing dress-ups because I had my high-vis shirt and my boots and hat on. And the other thing I love about my job is educating people, helping people understand about why disability access matters. I think if I was going to give one piece of advice to people, it would be to seek out mentors and find opportunities to learn from people. And that has certainly been vital in my journey. And the other thing is when you start out, you never quite know where you're going to end up. Thanks.
Thanks, Helen. We're glad that after a break, you found your way back into to our worlds. Next up, Jasmine. Jasmine worked for the North Melbourne Footy Club as a sports administrator, as well as playing for North in the AFLW team, where she won the 2020 Player Voted MVP. She was offered a role as an apprentice plumber with Cook and Dowsett, who are the hydraulics contractor at the State Netball and Hockey Centre, and were made aware of this initiative and were on the lookout for someone just like her. Jasmine was happy to oblige and started in 2019 and worked pretty much the whole time on the State Netball job. Excellent. We're glad to have you, Jasmine. Babe. There you go.
All right, take two. Yeah, so I'm a second year apprentice plumber for Cook and Dowsett. I come to work in the construction industry through football, as you mentioned. So I played for Collingwood for a couple of years, and during my second year at Collingwood, North Melbourne approached me and offered me a job in admin and doing a bit of coaching, which I thought was a great opportunity to get involved in. So I took that and moved across to North Melbourne. So I played there and I worked in the football department as well. And in my second year at North, I had a real good think about what I wanted to do after footy, because obviously footy isn't forever and I can't play forever. So I spoke to the club about a few career options, and doing a trade and apprenticeship is something I was really keen on doing, and it's probably something I thought about, you know, after high school, but I guess never really got the opportunity to do it. But so yeah, they passed me in a contact, which was Cook and Dowsett Plumbing, and I gave them a call, and I was lucky enough to get an interview, and I went from there. So I'm into my second year now, and I'm absolutely loving it. I think what interested me is just the variety of work and the different aspects of plumbing. I mean, when I talk to friends about doing plumbing, they don't have a heap of knowledge about it. They think it's just fixing toilets, but there's a lot more to it. I think, you know, one day you could be inside installing, you know, basins and toilets, and the next day you could be outside. So there's a lot of variety, and there's a lot more to it than people think. I just think there's not a whole heap of exposure to it, but I'm absolutely loving it. I love being on the tools, and yeah, just doing something different every day, and, you know, working outside in the sun, and then, you know, also working inside. So yeah, there's a lot to it. If there's any advice I could give to any girls that are interested or thinking about doing an apprenticeship, I'd definitely say give it a go. I think doing an apprenticeship is a great way to learn and also make money. So you know, you're getting paid while you're learning and getting your qualification. So yeah, it's a great way to start your career.
Great. Thanks, Jasmine. As always, just give it a go, yeah?
Give it a crack.
Done. And now it's my turn. My name's Ainsley. I work for Kane Constructions, and my journey started really in high school when I thought I was destined to be a brilliant graphic designer. I left school and got a place at RMIT University in a design course where I quickly found that I was not a great graphic designer, nor was I ever going to be. So I went in search of something a little bit different. I asked around and ended up on the Federation Square project as a work experience kid. It was supposed to be 1 week, it turned into 6, and it cemented my resolve that construction was absolutely where I wanted to be. So I went ahead to study a Bachelor of Applied Science at RMIT University in Construction Management, and took it from there. In second year, just like Shana, I had a zen to not work all summer in a supermarket, and approached builders who would take me as a summer intern, where I started with a company then called Hooker Cockram, who you might know now as Icon. I was lucky enough to stay with them through the rest of my schooling and into after graduation. And in 2007, I came to Kane. My very first job there was the Grand Hyatt Hotel redevelopment, which at the time was one of our bigger jobs, and definitely still one of our most impressive, I think. Since then, the beauty of working in construction is every day and every project is always different. I've worked on high-end hotels, I've worked on hospitals, I've worked on fire ring mains, I've done 4 separate jobs at La Trobe University. I've built the Origin Mental Health Clinic, and also now the State Netball and Hockey Centre. So just in the time that I've been at Kane, the breadth of experience and exposure to different things has been absolutely brilliant. Started out as a contract administrator and am now a contract manager, which means that I'm responsible for the money, effectively. I'm the one that procures the trades, writes the contracts, and makes sure that Shana's recipe book has people there to stir it along. Every day is different. Everybody has said that on this panel, and it makes it no less true. You are really not sure what you're going to be doing every day. Sometimes it's a bit on the fly, and sometimes your carefully laid plans go out the window, but there's always something to do. It's incredibly fast paced, and it's always incredibly interesting. Yes, the hours can be long and the site offices can be cold, but like any job, if you like what you're doing, the little things really don't matter that much in the end. There's a great cross-section of people that you'll work with in every job, which is exactly what you've seen here tonight. And the beauty of it is every job is different in location, in type of building that you're building, in the team that you have around you. Everyone is different. And the beauty of construction is that it's tangible. We finish the project, we give you the keys, and we walk out the door onto the next site. And that's something that I've always really, really loved, as opposed to something more academic. And what frustrated me in design was you did things, but they never really went anywhere, or you never saw them have an end product. In construction, you get to return to the buildings that you've had an involvement in, and you get to see people living in them and enjoying them and using them. So that's by far the best thing that I've found in my time in construction. If you're thinking about a role in construction, my only piece of advice is to give it a go. I think it's incredibly difficult to know what you want to be for the rest of your life at 17 or 18. Don't be afraid to bugger it up and make the wrong choice. You can always change tact. My parents were aghast when I said I'm moving from design into construction, because at the time, girls didn't enter into the construction industry in the way I wanted to. And my father especially, who came from a different generation, really was concerned that I wouldn't get a job. That was a valid concern in his generation, but I've never found that to be the case. If you want to work, there is always work for you, especially in Melbourne, where we're building such great buildings. Over time, our design philosophies have changed, our technological advances have changed, and our buildings have just gotten cooler in my time. So I really think that if you are thinking about a career in construction, just give it a go. There's lots and lots of opportunity and lots of different ways, as all of our panelists have shown, to get involved. Lisa, where are you?
Yeah, I'm off mute. Thank you so much, everybody. I actually have a few questions myself. And again, I'll just ask, and I can see a question's already been asked. So I'll just ask, if people do have a question, pop it into the chat box and we'll make sure that it gets answered. Rebecca Gibson is asking, what is the best way to approach builders about getting that site experience? She says she's currently studying construction management, has no experience, and really wants to get involved on getting on site.
Lisa, I've found that the best way that most builders have set up their HR is that through their websites, they have emails that you can contact. So I know Kane has a portal on our website where you can email your interest in becoming a cadet or seeking work experience, and that's at www.kane.com.au. And I'm fairly certain that most other builders have a very similar setup in which you can reach out to those organisations and get your name down in as many as possible. I think I did it old school back in the day and sent letters. I think I sent 30. I got 2 responses, which is a little bit awkward, but don't be afraid. You know, the one person that called me back is where I started work.
Thank you. Leanne Rayner makes a great point about jobs being available with all the major construction companies in Victoria and all the major projects. All employers want to diversify their workforce, which includes the recruitment of women. And that, I guess, brings me to one of my questions that I want to put to, I don't know, I will choose. And I guess what I'm asking is, what unique skills do women bring to the industry? Spencer, maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think what women bring to the industry is that different perspective, and that's kind of come from just those different life experiences, and that then kind of guides how we approach different tasks and different leadership roles. And I think having that diversity, not only just in having a gender diversity, but also seeing more of a cultural diversity within teams is vital for projects to kind of reflect the general needs of the public. And I think that's really important going forward, and seeing more of that diversity starting to happen. And yeah, I think it's really important.
Great. Please keep popping your questions into the chat box. But Pranjal, I wanted to ask you, what's the one thing you wish someone had told you before entering the industry?
Yeah, so I think I wish someone had told me the importance of soft skills. I'm a very type A personality, and I'm very driven to do well in whatever I set my mind to. And when you're working in a site-based setting in a very high-pressure environment where there is little to no margin for any error on certain things, having the necessary hard skills and being book smart are very essential, of course, but they'll only get you so far. You know, in my career to date, I've learned soft skills such as effective communication skills, teamwork, empathy are also just as important when you're working in the construction industry. And by having developed these skills myself over a period of time, I've learned ways to sort of humanize problems or a difficult situation. And that's really enabled me to think of more ways of resolving certain issues in reaching a better outcome. And funnily enough, I recently also just passed on this piece of advice to my younger sister, who's studying in med school, and often talks about some of the adversity faced by females in her industry. And it just goes to show that, like, irregardless of where you are, it's developing these soft skills from early on in your career that will make a real difference to how you operate as a professional.
Great. Thanks, Pranjal. Thank you so much. If nobody else has any more questions, but please do, there's still time to put them in the chat box. I'm actually going to throw one over to Shana. Have you ever felt less respected because you're a woman working in construction?
Lisa, I can honestly say no, but I think I've been fortunate enough that I've been set up to succeed by people around me. So, for example, the graduate program for my first job had 12 people, and that had a 50-50 split male and female. So immediately I had a cohort of females, a cohort of peers who supported and encouraged each other. So I immediately had, from that 50-50 split in the grad program, a team around me. And for my first 2 years in the industry, that same company, I had a direct female line manager. And again, I think that was no mistake. I think it was a conscious decision for the company to do that. And it meant I had a fantastic role model paving the way for me. And even though these are two very small things, they're very important, and they gave me a level of confidence and a level of assurance in what I was doing. And I think then that built my confidence. And when you have that little bit of self-confidence, immediately other people respect that. So yeah, I think I was set up to succeed by people around me.
It's fantastic. That's great, Shana. Jasmine, can I throw a similar question over to you as a female in construction on the trade side? If there's any challenges you've faced being a woman, and how you've seen barriers broken down, well, you know, there's AFL women as well, and ready for the next generation of females coming into the industry.
Yeah, for me, one thing is probably being exposed to it a little earlier. I just think back to being in high school. I remember, you know, trades like plumbing and carpentry were probably more pointed towards the boys, and you know, hairdressing and beauty was probably more for the girls. I'm not sure if it's changed now, but I reckon, you know, I'm 26 and I'm second year plumber. I just think, you know, I could have probably started this a little bit earlier, which is completely fine. I'm more than happy to be doing it right now, and I think it's worked out really well for me. But I reckon, you know, 18-year-olds, if they're exposed to it a little bit early and know there's an option that they can do it, I think we'll see a few more girls taking the options. And it is quite similar to AFLW. I remember before AFLW had started and was, you know, on TV for young girls to watch, compared to now where AFLW has been gone for 4 years. I think the numbers have, you know, increased by a lot, and a lot more girls are playing. And I think back to my my first club I played at, I was probably one of the only, you know, there was probably 3 girls through my whole time there that had played, and now that club has, I think, 4 girls teams. So, you know, the more that the girls see it, the more they're going to do it. So I think if we can have more exposure and girls know there's an option to do it, we'll see more of it.
That's such a fantastic point. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Tammy has asked, what other pathways would you recommend to try and get into the construction industry? She's been trying to find a company to take me on so she can do an apprenticeship in carpentry, but hasn't found anybody willing to take on a female.
That's a shame, Tammy. First up, we wish you luck. We definitely want to see more female chippies. My advice would be to reach out to as many avenues as you can. I'm not sure who you've already reached out to, but the master builders are always good for, you know, a point in the right direction. And you can always run through, you know, organisations like, you know, master builders and the building councils, and they usually have a database of contractors who you'd be able to reach out to. But don't be discouraged if you haven't struck upon the right employer just yet. They're definitely out there, mate.
Thanks, Ainsley. Helen, I actually have a question for you, and maybe it's about toilets, I'm not sure, but can you let us know about some of the challenges of your work and the solutions that you bring to the construction site?
Yeah, I don't think it's specifically related to gender, but often disability access is something that is put to the end of the list. Often, you know, through the design of a building, we'll get to you. We'll get to your issues. You know, first we've got to sort out the structural issues of a building. We can't think about what height the grab rail is going to be at. So sometimes that can be a bit frustrating when you get to the end of a project and you say, "I've been telling you this all along, and now we've got a problem." It's probably being a little bit patient with that, understanding that the structural issues do have to be sorted out before we can talk about sort of finer details of the building. But I know through experience that we get there, and it does get the right focus and attention at the right time, and it does happen. So sometimes it's just being a bit patient. I love changing places is an example of just great outcomes for people. There are probably many people who don't know what they are. They're specialised toilet facilities for people with high support needs, and these people may not be able to use a standard toilet or a typical accessible toilet. And the facility at the Netball and Hockey Centre has a hoist and an adult-sized change table so that people's continence aids can be changed, or that their toileting needs can be met. When you start hearing about the stories of how people's lives have been changed, it humbles me every time to hear somebody say, "Well, I can go." There's one at the MCG. "I can go and watch my football team play, and I can stay for the whole game," or "I can go to university because there's a facility there that I can have my toileting needs met." And those stories just make it all worthwhile.
That's great, Helen. An important part of a complex project that you're all working on. Rebecca Gibson has a fantastic question. She's asked, what would you recommend? Oh, hang on. What would you recommend doing to make yourself look more attractive as a hire on a job application? Shana.
Yeah, I can jump in with that one, Lisa. You do need to make a point of difference. It's really hard when quite often people are coming out of university with the same course on the CV. So it's hard to stand out from a piece of paper. I found that work experience was a real differentiator for me. But how do you get that first bit of work experience? So when I was at uni, I actually threw myself into the clubs and societies at university. And I got really involved with the Engineering Students Club. Yes, there are fantastically cool groups like the Engineering Students Club. So through volunteering with that group, I organised a lot of events. Sometimes they were social events. Sometimes they were career industry nights. So from working with that student club, I organised some industry career nights, which meant I was approaching industry to come and attend industry nights to meet prospective students. So who's going to be the first person they think of for a job, but the person that organised the night. So that was where I got my first break into the industry.
Thanks so much, Shana. Andrea has just made a comment here. I have 4 years of experience as a structural engineer overseas, and now I would like to make a change and find a job on site. I'm applying to graduate positions, but I haven't had good results. Do you have any recommendations to where to go to get my first local experience? Is there anybody?
Yes. It was bound to happen at some point. We were doing so well. Andrea, it is tough, and I'm not going to sugarcoat the industry right now. It's like all industries in a bit of a state of flux. This whole virus thing is making everybody particularly uncertain moving forward, but don't give up. I think what I would do in your position, given that you have experience already and sounds like you're fully qualified to take on a new role, I'd start reaching out to recruiters. There's a number of recruiters that work specifically in the construction sector, and once you get your name down with them, whenever a builder or a consultant group approaches them, they can definitely put your name forward. Thinking you might have already done that, but that's something that springs to mind at the moment, given that there are many recruiters that are on the phone a lot of the time. Good luck.
I've probably got another idea as well. There's some organisations out there, and to give an example, NAWIC, so that's the National Association for Women in Construction. Anyone can join that organisation, and obviously outside of COVID times, that organisation runs amazing networking events. They also run educational events, so you can go to seminars and learn about different topics. I've attended some of their seminars before, and they're really good. But equally, they're great networking opportunities to actually meet people in the industry, hear what other people are doing, hear what other companies are doing, and very quickly you start to hear companies that have won new jobs and where the opportunities might be.
Definitely.
Great, thank you. Claudia has a great question. So whoever wants to answer, pop your hands up. What would you say are the main differences between working as a project manager for government and working for a private company? I feel like we should throw this to Pranjal.
I'm happy to take that one.
Thank you.
I think in both public and private sectors in a sort of client-side project management capacity. Look, to be honest, I didn't see any significant difference. Didn't experience any significant difference between the two industries. I think what I did really enjoy, being a client-side project manager working on behalf of government was that sort of first-hand experience and control I could get in, influencing change, policy-wise as well. There's a greater ability to do that. So I think that would be the key difference there. But essentially the skill sets you'll need either industry you work in is the same.
Great answer. Thank you. I do have another question, and everybody can pop their hands up to answer this. The thing you like most about working in construction? Has everybody got a couple of words or a couple of sentences to? Who wants to start about the thing they like most?
I can dive in, Lisa.
Excellent.
Yeah, so why do I love what I do? It's a very practical job. So you're directly contributing to shaping the world around you, and you're shaping how people interact with buildings and the built world around them every day. And you're literally seeing your work being built before your eyes. So I really can't think of another industry that's as immediately rewarding as construction.
Yeah, I might follow on from Shana with that. For me, like growing up, being able to create these experiences within buildings and these memories. And then to know that I'm a part of a team that is doing that is extremely rewarding. And it's a great way to like leave the office and say, yes, like it's I was a part of that, and it's a really great feeling to know that you're involved in that process. So yeah,
I feel like I've already spoken lots about it. I just love the fact that it's always different. You never know what the day or the project is going to be, from big things to little things to, and getting a real buzz out of seeing this building that you've worked on for so long, and there it is in front of you, and just the wonderful experience of being there with something that you've lived with for years sometimes. Yeah.
I was just going to say, just the the tangible impact, and the positive social outcomes that certain buildings and structures achieve are very that's something that's quite rewarding to see as well. This particular project, the State Netball Hockey Centre, is a classic one. One day when I have a little girl, I'd like to see her enjoy the facility and enjoy what the government has funded.
Yeah, and my career in construction's only been short, but I've loved every minute of it, and it's probably the same as Helen, just the variety of work, and you can be doing something different every day. So yeah, really enjoying it.
Lisa, I don't have anything more to add. Everybody has already covered off the fact that construction is a interesting, fast-paced, dynamic, hugely broad and full of variety industry that anybody can enjoy from whatever perspective they come from it, or they come at it from, rather. From my perspective, I get to do all of the above in a pair of jeans. And that for me has always been fun. So I enjoy the site life. I enjoy the cold mornings, but the hot coffee and the chat with a huge range of people. We deal with everybody from our tradespeople to apprentices like Jasmine, to Shana and her design teams, Pranjal, and the whole team at DV. So just the breadth of experiences and people that you can pack into one day is always something that's been one of the best parts of the job.
Great. Ainsley, I'm going to throw one more question to you, Ainsley, and then I'll let you wrap it up because we're nearly coming to the end of our time. Ainsley, if you can just describe to us the changes that you've seen during your time. You look very young, you are very young, but you're over your time working in the industry. Yeah, if you can just describe the changes that you've seen.
Well, first,
and then we'll wrap up.
Because I'm not that young and I have been around a little while. But as I said before, I have seen it evolve hugely. When I first started, I was the only person on site. The only female rather on site. That would have been on site. That would have been at the site meetings. So the design team, the client team would have been all male. I have lost count of the number of times where people on site in those early days mistook me for the site secretary, or asked me to make them a cup of tea, which at the time, that was the reality. It's called a non-traditional role for women for a reason, and tradition, the word itself, alludes to a generational belief. And I think in the 15 years that I've been part of construction, that generation has shifted. That generation is no longer the reality. Women on site are the reality now. It is not at all strange, or a woman on site is not at all out of place in this day and age. In my own site team, we enjoyed a 50-50 split in our site office at one point. Now that Shana's moved on to her new job, we don't enjoy that anymore, but we're working towards it. But in our site meetings at the State Netball and Hockey Centre, you can see around our panel that they're all there and all contributing. So I feel like that shift has simply evolved over time, as it was always going to do, and it will continue to do. I think as we move forward, there will be more and more people entering university degrees and studying in construction related roles. But as we see through Jasmine's pathway, you know, people coming through for trades may not have been aware that this was even an option for them at 18. So that's one of the things that this plan really seeks to highlight, that you know, you can take your time and you can meander through a couple of side hustles like graphic design if you want to, but you know, you might end up in construction in the end. So I really feel like that over my time I've seen women on site and women contributing to projects like this and many others go from something of a novelty to something of a very, very commonplace, normal instance, and I think that's great. I think that will continue to be great, and it'll continue to make the jobs we build great.
Thanks, Ainsley. That brings us to 8:30. So did you want to wrap up for us?
Thanks, Lisa. So it is time to go now. We need to get up early to work again tomorrow. So it's time to say goodbye. Kane would like to give a special thanks to our panelists tonight, those girls who have given up their Thursday nights to join us. Also, we'd like to give a special shout out to Lisa and Marion at DV for taking care of our technology tonight, something I would not have been able to manage. And to you, the audience, we'd like to thank you for giving up your time tonight. We hope that these panelists and all of our stories have shown you what might be possible to create your own pathway to a career in construction. And we thank you for joining us.